redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. This is your podcast or your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. I want to dive right into the topic for today, and I'll also give you some of the headlines that exist today as well, because I do believe that they happen to line up. But the first thing that I want to talk about, or what I am going to be talking about, is what would you do differently? If you wanted to destroy America, what would you do differently than what the Biden administration and what the Democrat Party are currently doing? Victor Davis Hanson, you guys know him from AM Greatness, amgreatness.com. Also, he wrote a piece for the Heritage Foundation or Daily Signal, or I'm not sure if he wrote it for AM Greatness, and they posted it on the Daily Signal website as well. But nonetheless, we're going to get into that. By the way, make sure you tune in tomorrow. We're going to have Kara Frederick on. She's with the Heritage Foundation as well. She's in charge basically of all of their social media, their big tech. She's their expert when it comes to that stuff. She used to be high up at Facebook. Also in the Department of Defense. Now she works at the Heritage Foundation. She's going to break down all things that are happening at Twitter. It looks like the Biden administration are trying to pretend, if you heard the not so notorious KGB yesterday, try to pretend like what's happening or what happened in 2020 is old news. They didn't want to make mention of the fact that it appears the DOJ, the FBI, they were involved in interfering in the 2020 presidential contest, if you will. No telling what transpired in 2022. However, again, we will get into that tomorrow. So be sure to tune in tomorrow. But what would you do differently if you wanted to destroy America? Victor Davis Hanson lays out 10 examples or 10 points, things you would do if you wanted to destroy America, and they are all being done. It lets us know exactly what the Republican Party needs to work against or fight against if we're going to have any hope of restoring a constitutional republic. And that is the goal right now. The goal is to be able to restore the constitutional republic. Because we live in a post-constitutional America. I've shared this before. Before I go on, I do want to encourage you to please subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, wherever you listen into your podcast. You can go to SalemPodcastNetwork.com, theCarlJacksonShow.com. If you like to subscribe there, there are also plenty of articles. It's like a daily newsletter for you if you want to check out theCarlJacksonShow.com. But wherever you go to get your podcast, please subscribe. And also, please follow me on social media. I really would appreciate it. The Carl Jackson Show, wherever you are on social media. And again, MyPillow, please support our sponsor, MyPillow, MyPillow.com, or you can give them a call, 1-800-858-0263. I want to make you aware of a new deal that's going on at MyPillow for my listeners. So MyPillow is excited to announce, and I am, the original My Slippers are back in stock just in time for Christmas. All right. So last Christmas, you made the MyPillow slippers the number one selling MyPillow product. And now they have added smaller sizes, larger sizes, wide sizes, and all new colors. What makes My Slippers different is the exclusive 4-layer design that you're not going to find in any other slippers. My Slippers patented layers make them ultra comfortable, extremely durable, and they help relieve the stress on your feet from all the running around this holiday season. Wear them anytime, anywhere, and save $90 off with promo code Carl. That's only $49.98 a pair. That they would make a great Christmas present for someone out there that you love. You'll absolutely love My Slippers. And now they are also extending their 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2023, making them the best Christmas gift ever. So go to MyPillow.com. Please use the promo code Carl. All right. Or call 1-800-858-0263. Please do that now. Again, use the promo code Carl to save $90 on the original My Slippers. That's only $49.98 a pair. Quantities won't last long, however, so please order now, especially as we are leading up to Christmas. Okay, so what would you do if you wanted to destroy America? 10 things that you would do that are pretty easy to accomplish. At least for the left, they've been easy to accomplish, unfortunately. So the first thing you would do is, let me take a swig, you would destroy America's energy independence. Victor Davis Hanson, again, writes about this beautifully, breaks it down beautifully. I'm going to take this point by point, but the first thing you would do is, again, you would destroy America's energy independence. You would reduce new and gas oil leases on federal lands to the lowest levels of any president in history. All right. You will cut back production at precisely the time the world is emerging from a 2-year lockdown with pent up consumer demand. So we come out of this lockdown. Guess what people want to do? They want to get out on a highway. Did you hear that, Gabe? I'm improving my singing skills, right? They want to, I said it wrong. They want to get their motor running and they want to head out on the highway. All right. So that's what they want to do. All this pent up lockdown, all this stuff. People wanted to get out. People wanted to experience freedom again. Maybe not if you're a lefty, but certainly if you're a patriot, love America. And even if you were a liberal, you wanted to get out. But that's not what Biden wanted to do. That's not what he wanted to do. Instead, what he wanted to do is exactly what he did do. He made a war on coal and nuclear power. He drained the strategic petroleum reserve to make the pain for consumers more bearable for the midterm election, for their midterm election advantage. So we know that the price of fuel is going to go up. Right. The price of gas is going to go up because we're not doing any new drilling on federal lands. That is not happening. So, but what Biden did, he released oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Many of you listening to this podcast, you're informed enough to know this, in order to lessen the price or reduce the price of fuel leading into the midterm election. Now it's going to skyrocket because we've basically bottomed out. We cut down the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in half. And it's absolutely insane. Now, some of you are sitting there thinking that, oh, listen, it's about time that we get rid of this, get rid of these ICE cars, these internal combustion engines, because we want to save the planet. Sorry, whoopsie, you're not doing that. Hat tip, Daily Wire, European country considers banning electrical vehicle travel amid energy crisis report. Oh, my God. So if you have an energy crisis, especially if you live up north, listen, EVs are not going to be the way to go. Not to mention, it's a complete and utter lie. Everything that occurs in the production process when it comes to EVs just does far more damage to the planet, not to mention child slavery, than do ICE vehicles. You're better off getting an internal combustible engine. I don't know why Republicans, actually I do know, they're freaking weak, but we should be arguing against this point. There is no need. These car makers were making cars more fuel efficient, better, safer, all this kind of stuff before all this EV nonsense broke out. It's just a hoax. But here it is from the Daily Wire. Switzerland is considering banning electric vehicles for non-essential travel this winter as the continent deals with an energy crisis sparked by Russia's war in Ukraine. The Telegraph reported that government officials have already drafted plans to conserve energy that could include limiting heat in buildings to no more than 68 degrees Fahrenheit and reducing the number of hours stores can be open. Ooh, that's what happens when you live under authoritarian rule. They don't think so in Europe, but listen, let's face it. It's getting nasty out there. Stricter measures could be enacted, including banning large indoor gatherings like sporting events, concerts, and theater events. The report said Switzerland relies heavily on hydroelectric power, which constitutes nearly 2/3 of its energy supply. Dummies. That's why Russia was able to take advantage of them. The excess of which it exports during the time of year that it can generate the most electricity from rain and snowfall, the report said. All right. So they're telling people to cut down on driving their electrical vehicles. Go ahead and park those suckers. All right. So those things are not going to be reliable in bad weather. They're not great for the environment. They do run clean while you have them, except for their tires because they have such a heavy battery that they emit a lot of emissions just based on their tire wear, believe it or not. But what else would you want to do if you're, again, trying to destroy the United States of America, continuing with the first issue, reduce our energy independence, you would also not just make a war on coal and nuclear power or drain the strategic petroleum reserve, but you would also cancel the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge oil and gas field, right? So we're not drilling or fracking for new gas. You would block pipelines like the Keystone XL pipeline, because remember, when it comes to fossil fuels and oils, or natural gas and all those things, they're traded on a futures market. So based upon what's coming on the market dictates the price of these fuels, if you will. And so Biden totally destroyed that by shutting down Keystone, by shutting down or canceling the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. You would over-regulate and you would demonize frackers and horizontal drillers. Fracking is the cleanest way to drill for oil. They go in, slant it. They can see what they're doing. They've perfected it to a T, so you don't see a bunch of oil spills all the time. Consider how much oil we use and fossil fuels that we use and products that we make, not just for our vehicles, but products that we put on the body. How often do you hear about these major oil spills? It's not often. Now, I'm not saying they're not bad when they happen, but even when they happen, it's a natural product. You have oil that emerges from the bottom of the ocean or comes out of the crust of the earth itself. And so that is a natural product. And so what happens, even when you have these oil spills, eventually the ocean absorbs it. Unfortunately, the wildlife in the area get damage as a result of it when it's not just small leakage, but nonetheless, it is a natural product. So you would over-regulate these and demonize these frackers so they don't want to drill or can't drill, or they're always looked at as evil people, and some of them that are weak in their moral compass perhaps, or don't want to be demonized all the time, will start capitulating to the left. So that's what you would do. You would make use of internal combustion engines or fossil fuels, power generation, prohibitively expensive. And that is the goal, to make sure that when you go to the pump, you feel pain when you're filling up your ICE vehicle. So you'll start saying, man, you know what? I think I need to go green. I need to go electric. That's what you would do. The second thing that you would do to destroy this country, the first, again, is reduce our energy independence. The second is inflation. You will print trillions of dollars in new currency at the lockdowns end, right? And then demand would rise because again, people have been locked up, and then you give them all this money. And then consumers are already saturated with money because they've been locked up for so long. They haven't gone out to spend money. They've been scared to go out and spend, all masked up and all this kind of stuff, being told that we're going to die, or kill granny if we go out. So you get all this money. You continue to print money. You keep interest rates low and well below inflation rates as you print even more money. And what do? You spur inflation. You ensure that passbook holders are no interest at the very time prices skyrocket to the highest per annual level that it has in 40 years. That's what you do. You spread the wealth, according to Victor Davis Hanson, by sending money to those who already have enough, maybe upper middle class, to make a great living, while you make it less valuable for those deemed to have too much. So you make it less valuable for the rich, and you spread the wealth by sending money to those who already have enough. And the goal was, and I told you guys this before, what the goal was is to basically make the goal is to destroy the middle class. That's what they want to do. Right? The middle class, the typical working class, will vote for the people that fight for them. Right? And so the left, if they want this society of the have and have nots, they have to get rid of the middle class. That's exactly what they're trying to do. Also, you would ensure runaway high prices to wean the middle class of its consumerism and supposedly to inspire them to buy less junk they don't need. So you can't act like American. Listen, you can't go out and achieve the American dream. What you want to do is train people not to spend their money, train people to get used to a lower standard of living. So that's the second thing that you would do. That's exactly what they wanted to do. Damn the rich in the open and in the abstract, but basically hook them up on the back end, right? We know there's insider trading inside of Washington, D.C. We know that the only people that can thrive in this environment of high inflation are those that are rich, right? They've already got their investments. They've already got their assets. As the market continues to tank, they may know where to invest. They got the best accountants. They got the best financial advisors. They're going to figure out how to stay wealthy. But for those of us that are in the middle class or the working class, those of us that are poverty stricken, perhaps, life is going to be a little more difficult. The third thing you would do is you would get rid of borders, right? So in America's physical boundaries, render it an amorphous people and anywhere space. So basically, you would get rid of any clearly defined lines or shapes. You would get rid of the borders. Michael Savage would always say, I'm sure he still does, I haven't listened to the guy in years, but borders, language, culture, right? That's what makes America. That's what makes any country, as a matter of fact. You have to have defined borders. You go into, if I go to Mexico, or if I go to, I don't know, some part of, if I go to Brazil, or if I go to some part of Africa, wherever it may be, I expect to travel to a certain location defined by borders, and I don't expect that other country to speak English. And I don't expect them to have the same cultural traditions that we would have in the United States. That is what defines a nation. So when you destroy borders, language, culture, when you end any difference between citizens and residents, you dilute what it means to have a country. That's what the left is trying to do. So that is the third thing. You get rid of borders. The fourth thing you do is you destroy our trust in the election process. You render election day irrelevant, make election season relevant. I mean, look at places like Arizona that were still counting votes a month later. Give me a freaking break, when bigger states like Florida, Texas, and New York were able to count their votes and get things settled the same day. You have states like Arizona that are counting a month later. It makes no sense unless you're cheating. It makes no sense. You can make proper auditing of 110 million mail-in and early ballots impossible, right? With broken machines and all that kind of crap. You can normalize ballot harvesting, where people that aren't even motivated to vote, you can go out and signatures aren't required. You go tell people to vote, or they don't even necessarily have to vote. The ballots are out there. You've mailed out 110 million. So all you have to do is essentially turn in ballots to a drop box. That's how you destroy trust in the election, in our election system. And it works. A lot of people, listen, the Georgia Senate runoff is today. Georgians, if you're listening, get up off your keister and go and vote for Herschel Walker. That seat is crucial. The most important thing that I think will that you might not understand is, once you normalize ballot harvesting, once you normalize curing, which is these people can bring in ballots, drop them off in these ballot boxes, or these drop boxes again, but you can cure ballots as well. So these people that are in charge of elections, the people that the Zuckerbergs of the world, or the Sam Bankman-Frieds of XTX, the ones that were hired using their money by the DNC and local Democratic organizations, if you will, or front groups, they can do ballot curing. So they can bring in a bunch of ballots, and all of a sudden, this signature doesn't match, this writing does, whatever doesn't match. And so we're going to cure it. We're going to give these people time to come in. I mean, it's insane where we are. And also, you would demonize people like myself, people that, you would call people that say, wait a minute, if you have any questions about the election, I mean, Democrats have done it hundreds of times. Literally, I have a list of over 82 times, at least in modern history, where Democrats have literally denied elections. You got Hakeem Jeffries, that's going to be the minority leader of the House of Representatives, that has, several times denied the election results of 2016. So it's absolutely insane. The fifth thing that you would do is you would redefine crime as a rich man's crime, another a poor man's necessity. In other words, you would be soft on crime. You would make excuses for criminals, like they're doing, like Alvin Bragg does in New York City, like you see Gascon doing in Los Angeles, like you see some of these woke behind DAs doing in some of these blue cities across the nation. So this is the fifth thing that you would do. Let those who need things exercise their entitlement to them. Like you go to Los Angeles And in some places around the country in these blue cities, but I know Los Angeles for sure, my hometown, you can go into a store, you can steal up to $900+ worth of material and you won't be charged with a crime. So the stores just have to let their items, their products, their money walk out of the door. Do you think businesses are going to stay alive if that continues to happen? Of course they will not, or they'll move. They'll move. The sixth thing that you would do is play the game of identity politics. This is huge. Look at what identity politics has done to divide Americans over the years. It has done a lot to destroy America and American unity over the years, from CRT to DEI, you name it, affirmative action. Everything the left can do to put us in groups, that's what they've done. So you would junk the unifying idea of a melting pot in a multiracial society, which is crucial for America, since you have so many people coming here from different countries, different backgrounds, or what have you. But the unifying thing was we're all American. We obey the laws of the land, right? We love the Constitution. We love our freedoms. We're all Americans. That's what the left wants to get rid of. Instead, they want to use the skin color or superficial identity, the superficial identity of people they want that to be prominent. They want to seek to be a victim, if you will, and monetize your claims against perceived victimizers. That's essentially what CRT does. There are the oppressed, which happens to be Black and minority people. And then there are the oppressors, which are the white people. They will call anyone who resists this notion of CRT, DEI, all this kind of nonsense, a bunch of racists. That's exactly what they would do in order to try to make them shut up. All right. You would incite tribalism. You would encourage each tribe, because now we're no longer Americans. We're tribes, right? Defined by common race, ethnic, gender, or sexual orientation and affinities, to band together to oppose the monolithic white privilege that exists inside of America. You would encourage social and tribal tensions. And don't we see that happening across the country? Racially discriminate to end discrimination. That's what CRT does. It's unbelievable where we find ourselves today. You would destroy the traditions and the history of the United States. So you would topple the statues. Listen, I'm sorry. I'm one of these. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe you call me whatever. Call me any name you want. I really don't care. But I don't think we should be toppling statues. I understand there are some statues that are offensive to people. There are some statues, I'm sure, that would be offensive to me. But if it's a part of American history, I embrace the good and the bad. I look at the bad. I look at whether it's Confederate statues or whatever. I would look at that and be like, oh, my God, that is so painful. But it is a marker in time, if you will, of how far we've come as Americans, what we had to go through, what people before us had to go through in order to live in the America that exists today, where you cannot be stopped because of the color of your skin. You cannot be deterred by the color of your skin. The only thing that slows you down now as an American is laziness, or perhaps maybe you're not that bright. But even if you're not the brightest bulb in the bunch, there's plenty of opportunity and job opportunity for anyone in America to grow prosperous. Carl, I can only make so much money. Okay, well, you can learn to be content where you are, but you can save, you can invest. I don't care how much you make. You can learn to save and invest even a little bit to get you to the next level. You can work hard at your job to get raises, to get promotions. It doesn't matter who you are, unless there's some type of mental challenge, disability, or some type of physical disability that would slow you down. That I understand. But for most Americans, we are without excuse when it comes to that. But the left wants to destroy traditions. They want to, name change and boycott industries that they disagree with. They want to cancel people. That's what we're seeing at Twitter. Canceling opposition is what they were doing. The FBI working with the DNC and working with corporate media to squash dissenting views so that their candidate can win. We are living in crazy times. They would ostracize people. They would erase the past to control the present. That's exactly what the left is doing now. Okay. So again, the sixth thing you would do, let me just reiterate these because I've gone from 1 through 6. First, you would reduce our energy independence, what the Biden administration and Democrats have done. You would cause inflation to skyrocket inside of the United States by printing out even more money while people are already sitting fat with cash in their homes due to the lockdowns. You would end our American sovereignty, right? Just open borders like we see at the southern border. The fourth thing you would do is you would destroy our overall trust, our Americans' overall trust in the election system, where some Americans would simply decide to stay home, and it would essentially just be a ballot harvesting election race. That's essentially what it would come down to. You would make sure that you would install these soft on crime DAs to redefine crime as a rich man's crime and a poor man's necessity. You would use identity politics to destroy this great melting pot and cause tribalism and put people or cause Americans to look at other Americans divisively and derisively. All right. Now, the seventh thing that you would do is this. You would act as if we're not an exceptional nation. Well, Carl, how would you do that? Well, you could get involved in the Paris Climate Accords. That's one thing you could do, right? We talked about ending America's energy independence, right? We don't necessarily have the best ideas. We can pretend like we don't, and instead of being the dominant nation in the world, we can cede our power to places like China or just mold in, if you will, to the EU and just pretend like our country isn't better. And I'm sorry, that isn't to say that our people are better, because we're not. The UK, Europe, all these countries produces great people. However, our system of governance is far better. We, the people, are in charge. That's what the Democrat Party is trying to change. So you can make us look weak. You can make us look like, hey, we're just a part of the group. We're no different than anyone else. Remember, former President Barack Obama said, I suppose America is exceptional in the same way that other countries think their country is exceptional. ¿Por qué? What? What the heck are you talking about, fool? America is the greatest country that God has ever given, man. That's why your black behind was able to ascend to the presidency of the United States. Or, another thing that we could do, instead of using our military might to actually win wars, we could lose wars and just have all of these people profiting off the military industrial complex that I didn't necessarily believe existed until we see what's happening with Zelensky and Ukraine. And that's not to say that I didn't believe. I wanted Ukraine to be a buffer. I still believe that it's in our interest, but we have no accounting of the money. What we should have done was given Ukraine, if we're going to be a part of this thing, first off, we should have shut our pie holes, given Ukraine the weapons only that they needed to succeed to defeat and win our proxy war. Let's be honest. That's what it is. So if we would have done that, and we should have armed them at the very beginning instead of waiting for Putin to invade. Now it's turned to, we're going to give them some of the things that they need. We're going to send them billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, and we're not going to be able to track it. Where's that money being laundered to? Let's be real. I know Ukraine is getting some of it, but where is the rest of it going? We need a full accounting. We need an audit of that war. But we can abandon the people in Afghanistan. We could leave behind 80-something plus billion dollars in some of the most or the best military equipment that exists on the planet. We could pretend as if we're weak. We can make the people the Afghanis just think or look at America as just another country. Instead of this great country, it's just another country that would abandon us or has forgotten about us or don't think about us like the rest of the world. That's exactly what we did. We could beg our enemies like Venezuela, Russia, and Iran to pump more oil when it's politically expedient for us to have abundance of supply right here based upon our own resources that we have in the United States that we can produce for ourselves. We would also discourage friends like Guinea from producing more energy and cancel allies energy products like the East Med pipelines. We can trash but then beg Saudi Arabia to pump oil right before the midterms so that the Democrats don't experience a political disadvantage, right? So the seventh thing that we would do is make sure that America does not look exceptional on the world stage. These are all the things that you would do if you wanted to destroy the United States of America. 10 easy steps. Also, what would you do? You would neuter free speech. You would absolutely neuter free speech. Listen, you would enlist like these Silicon Valley monopolies, these big tech corporations to silence unwanted speech, to silence opposition, to make sure that people aren't allowed to get two opposing views and to think critically and to come to their own conclusion on any political idea or political policy. That's what you would do. It's unbelievable. Right? You would declare free expression hate speech. All free expression is hate speech. That's what the left does. Everything the right says is hate speech. Oh, they're not ideas. If we talk about judges, if we talk about abortion, if we talk about free speech in general, if we talk about taxes, if we talk about illegal immigration, if we talk about a strong military, if we talk about exceptionalism, if we talk about healthcare, it doesn't matter. We are evil. It is hate speech. If we talk about how the left is destroying the culture, if we talk about the importance of traditional marriage or real marriage between a man and a woman, that's hate speech. Everything we do is hate speech. So you would neuter free speech in order to get people to self-censor. I'm sorry. And that's exactly what is happening. You would declare war on free speech, and you would criminalize any contrarian social media. And that's exactly what the left is doing. You would demonize, number 9, you would demonize political opponents. You would call them semi-fascists, un-Americans, insurrectionists, the whole 9, the whole buffet of names that the Democrat Party comes up with. That's exactly what you would do. You would destroy the idea of unity amongst Americans. You would make other Americans look down upon other Americans, and not just look down upon them, think that they are evil so that you never have to listen to their ideas. That's what the left does. That's what the left does. They even branded us domestic terrorists, those of us that are on the right. And then they make They demonize us so much that they try to make us a caricature of ourselves. That's what the left does. Remember what they did to Sarah Palin? I can see Russia from my house. She never said that. She never, ever said that. But they destroyed her because they did an SNL skit. And some of the useful idiots out there totally believed it. She said what she did say was, which is absolutely true, you can see parts of Russia from Alaska. And that's absolutely true. All you have to do is look at a freaking map. But no, the left, you can see Russia from my house. And then they just destroyed her. They made her a caricature. Then another thing that you can do is you can change inconvenient ancient rules or traditions when it comes to our political system. You can pack the court and you can end the filibuster. You can totally trash the Electoral College and say that it's worthless. You can try to bring in 2 more states. You can bring in 2 more states if it's politically expedient for yourself or for your party, because you know that those states that you would bring into the union would predominantly vote for Democrat or socialist politicians. That's what you can do. All right. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Also, you can twice impeach a former president for nothing. a president who tried to stand in your way, a president and former President Trump that tried to, regardless of how you feel, you have to look at his policies and said, this was a man that actually stood by the people, and he's being destroyed for it. Now, I got to tell you, when it comes to politics, Donald Trump has good instincts. When it comes to some of the cultural stuff or just chiming in too much, not as much. I mean, there's no doubt the whole Kanye West meeting was a setup. He's got to denounce that through and through. He's done a lot for the Jewish people. He's done a lot for the nation state of Israel. But people are quick to forget that stuff, especially when you have a corporate media ad nauseum and big tech working in conjunction with them that are still trying to destroy you, even though you're not the presidency, even though you're not the president. And what you could do is impeach a president twice. Try him when he is when he's the emeritus president or a private citizen. You can raid his home, seek to indict a future rival to the current president. That's what you could do. You can make him constantly look like a criminal when the guy has done nothing wrong, to destroy a country and to make other Americans look at not just a former president, but all of his supporters as evil resurrection or insurrectionists and all that. So you continue to demonize political opponents. You continue to demonize your fellow Americans. Then you get to the point where neighbors don't even talk to neighbors because they find out, oh my God, he's a Democrat. Oh my God, he's a Republican. That's exactly what the left wants to do. So number 7, we're not exceptional. Number 8, you neuter free speech. Number 9, you demonize half the country as semi-fascists or un-Americans, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists. You basically demonize your political opponents. Number 10, here's what you do. You never mentions the origins of COVID-19. Never blame China for the release of the SARS-CoV-2. You exempt investigations of U.S. health officials who subsidize the Chinese gain-of-function research. You would ignore the Bill of Rights to mandate vaccinations, damn every American civil liberties, and you would hope that some useful idiots would buy into it hook, line, and sinker and just relinquish their power as an American citizen to the federal government. That happened. That happened. Unfreaking believable, but that happened. We've all seen this happen. So this is how you destroy America. I got a couple more things that I want to add. But again, just to reiterate, again, first, you'd reduce our energy independence. Great piece by Victor Davis Hanson. You would also print trillions of dollars in new currency. You would cause inflation. All right. Number 2, you would end American sovereignty. You would open up the borders. Number 3, number 4, you would destroy all trust in our election system. Number 5, you would be soft on crime. So our cities go to hell in a handbasket, and you will make the argument that crime as one rich man's crime and another poor man's necessity to basically okay the crime, the rising crime rates. You would make identity politics part of your, not your modus operandi for operation. If you're the Democrat Party, that's exactly what they're doing. Number 7, you would act like America is not exceptional. You would act like every other nation around the world, and you would weaken our military. We abandon our friends or abandon our allies, abandon people that we were protecting, regardless of how you felt about the Afghanistan war, the Iraq war, whether we should have been there, that doesn't matter. The way that we left was absolutely destructive to our reputation, and the left didn't mind it. You would neuter free speech. Number 8. Number 9, you would demonize half the country, demonize your political opponents instead of talking about policy. Number 10, you would never mention a pandemic and lockdowns that virtually destroyed the United States of America as we know it. Those are the 10 things that we would do. There's something else that I wanted to get to that I will not get to. And again, before I go on and I'll end this, I'll close up with just a few more points. And again, make sure you tune in tomorrow. We're going to have Kara Frederick on the Heritage Foundation. We're going to be up to speed on all things Twitter and Twittergate and the Twitter files. We're going to dive into that more deeply, and we're going to talk about a game plan. What can Republicans do now? So you're not going to want to miss that podcast. And please subscribe to the podcast. I really would appreciate it. All you have to do is go to SalemPodcastNetwork.com, TheCarlJacksonShow.com, and follow me on social media, The Carl Jackson Show. But before we close out here, I just want to apprise you, if you will, of what the left is continuing to do in the not so lame duck session. I started to do a podcast on this altogether, and perhaps I will. The lame duck session is almost over. But it is not stopping. The Democrat Party has not stopped. We really need to do something legislatively about the lame duck session to make sure that if we're not going to have an expedited transition as soon as races are won or lost, I'm starting to be of the belief that as soon as you win or win a race or lose a race, maybe it's time to get out of office. I'm not exactly sure. I just don't like this lame duck session, especially when Democrats are in, because they actually mean business. You don't have to worry about it with conservatives. Conservatives will manage to kiss the behinds of Democrats. It really doesn't matter. But just consider the things that they're trying to get done during the lame duck session. Starting with the Respect for Marriage Act, which is actually a disrespect for Marriage Act, undermining religious liberty in the country. Guys, I don't care if you're atheist. I don't care if you're agnostic. The reason why this country is so great is because we look at an individual as valuable because we believe God created that individual, and we do not want we do not want individual rights trampled upon. So you undermine religious liberty, right? You undermine a building block of society, that is marriage between a man or woman. Let's just be real. Gays can produce kids, all right? If we're going to be honest, all right? Let's just be honest, for God freaking sakes. But you undermine religious liberty, and this country starts to go down. You undermine federalism, forcing, and this is what's happening in the lame duck session, forcing other states to honor things that they don't believe in. That is not America. That's why we're different. We're 50 different states. Assault weapons ban, Biden is working on it. Fortunately, it stalled in the Senate before the elections, but they're at it again, trying to get 60 votes. And I'm sorry, with sellout Republicans that have already capitulated to some levels of weakening the Second Amendment with Mitch McConnell, the Mitt Romney and the like, and all of the Republicans that don't get it or don't care or are corrupted. I don't think they're rhinos. Unfortunately, they're not Republicans in name only. They are the epitome of the Republican Party. That's the truth about it. All right. So this assault weapons ban, we should all be fearful of it. Why would any federal government want to get rid of weapons? They want to get rid of weapons so that they can beat you up, so that they can jail you, so that they can control you just like they do in China. And you won't do jack about it because you have no way to defend yourself against a bullet. That's what the Second Amendment is for. The Electoral Count Act, Democrats are looking to change the Electoral Count Act. This 1887 law laid out the procedure for counting electoral college votes following a presidential election. It became a hotly contested issue following the 2020 presidential vote. Let me just read through this real quick because this one is a little harder to explain. So just bear with me. The law was the result of the 1876 presidential election between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel Tilden, in which 4 states sent Congress competing sets of electoral college votes. Here's how Fred Lucas of Heritage Foundation explains or describes the Electoral College Act, which was meant to clarify the process. The process is to give Congress a means for settling the matter. The 1887 law required a joint session of Congress to count the Electoral College votes from each state and stipulated that the vice president, as presiding officer, would certify the results. That was the big, woo-ha, if you will, with Pence in 2020. However, if an objection to the count is declared in writing by a House member and signed by at least one senator, the joint session would temporarily adjourn, and both the House, this was what J6 was about, honestly, and both the House and the Senate would be required to debate the objection for 2 hours. The chambers would vote on the lawmakers' objections before reconvening in the joint session. There have been bipartisan talks to remove that power from Congress. Some Democrats, however, want to see more widespread changes to the U.S. voting system to effectively federalize the process. Can you imagine federalizing the process where everything is done on high? Lefties, liberals, you should even be concerned about this. But can you imagine Biden controlling the entire election process? Republicans, common sense, middle of the road people, moderates would never win another election. All right. So the bare minimum, the article goes on to say absolutely, but we need to go further than that. Oh, that was Representative Jim Clyburn. He wants the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which basically the federal government takes over all elections. So that we become like Venezuela, Brazil, Russia, so on, et cetera. Another thing they're working on in the lame duck session is an omnibus spending bill. They want to spend more money. This has to stop. This is why they were voted out of the House. The Democrats were. This has to stop. Another thing, amnesty for illegal immigrants, trying to use these DACA kids or these DACA people as pawns, political pawns. That's also what the left wants to do, codify that into law. This has to stop. But if you want to destroy America, you would do the 10 things that I mentioned. Thank you, Victor Davis Hanson. But also, you would just continue fighting to get those things accomplished because you ultimately know, and that's what they're doing in the not so lame duck session, because you ultimately know that if you can get legislative change in the United States, we typically don't go back. Look at Obamacare. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. More doctors and nurses just look at you as a freaking number. Healthcare costs have skyrocketed. Insurance companies are the major benefactors, not the patients. It did exactly opposite of everything Obama claimed that it would do. Absolutely insane. All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Some of the easier place, SalemPodcastNetwork.com, the Carl Jackson Show.com. And also, again, follow me on social media at The Carl Jackson Show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.